Auditioning is your moment to shine. It's a chance to take the script and make it your own. It's not about guessing what the casting team wants. It's about showing them a version of the character they didn't even know they needed. So, how do you approach that audition material and make bold, dynamic choices that stand out? Let's dive into some tried and true ways to tackle those sides and pro tips to give a memorable performance with auditions that wow. This is Casting Actors Cast.
Casting Actors Cast, oh, what a show! With Jeffrey Dreisbach, we're ready to go. From agents to gigs, learn what you lack. Tune in every week, we're bringing you back.
We're going to kick off the show right after this. Well, hello and welcome to today's episode of Casting Actors Cast. I'm casting partner Jeffrey Dreisbach with the McCorkle Group in New York. How are you? I'm looking forward to sharing this. This is a question I get all the time. How can I make my script more interesting? Therefore, making my audition more interesting. So I've got all kinds of information about that, as well as what I call pro tips that I'm going to throw in as well that I think you're going to find really, really useful. So thank you for tuning in to Casting Actors Cast. I invite you to check out the website Casting Actors Cast, all one word.com. You're going to find all kinds of information there. One is about my book called Jeff's Jots, The Actor's Career Playbook. It's on Amazon.com, and the link is right there on the website. So please check that out. I think you're going to find that great. There's also a form that says dive into the talent pool. And if you do that, it's going to open up a whole bunch of freebies. There's a free book on doing voiceover work. There's a video called Casting Secrets, what they don't tell you. It's just kind of a way for you to get more information. And speaking of getting more information, please don't forget that there are corresponding show notes to each of the episodes on the website as well. It's the blog that corresponds to each of the episodes. So you can have a reference right in your very own hand. So thank you for that. Let's jump into this. Auditions that wow. I get that question a lot, as I said, and I think that if we take a structured approach to your preparation by incorporating the following suggestions I'm going to be making to you, I promise you, you're going to feel so much better, and you're going to be able to walk out of that audition without re-auditioning in your head on the way home. You know what I mean? I used to do that all the time as an actor. Now I see actors after an audition doing it still. So let's talk about it. I think that there are several steps here, and I'm going to share the steps and actually share some ways in which you can use those steps in the process. So I hope that that makes sense. First and foremost, I think you should read the script like a detective. Don't read it like an actor trying to come up with a way to deliver the words. Treat the script like a detective before you even start. Before you even start to think about how to perform, you focus on what's actually happening. How do you do that? Well, you look for clues. Who is your character? What's their goal in this scene? How do they feel about the other characters? See, the script is full of all kinds of really cool breadcrumbs. So follow them. Here's another way to do that. Dig into the subtext, right? What your character is really saying underneath the words. I think that very often the most dynamic moments in a scene come from what's not spoken. Continuing on with that, you've heard this, I'm sure, in your acting. Consider the stakes. I've heard directors my whole life say, raise the stakes. Why is this moment important? That's what you need to answer. See, if it doesn't feel urgent or important to your character, it's certainly not going to feel urgent or important to the audience. Here's a pro tip. If you only get a few pages, like, which is common in most auditions, just a side of a scene, research the show or project to understand the tone, genre, and relationships. I know that that makes sense, but that's often forgotten only because actors treat the audition like it's an event. and they don't feel they have the time to do that work of research. I promise you, a little research can go a long way to helping you interpret that side, that script. All right, let's move on from there. Here it is. Here it comes. Make bold, specific choices. Casting directors love actors who make strong, specific decisions because it shows confidence and creativity. So decide what your character wants. Everything your character says should connect to that particular objective in one way or another, whether it's using subtext or whether it's just a literal interpretation of the script. Whether they want to win someone over or hide their fear or take control, let that goal drive your performance. Another suggestion is add layers. This is a biggie. Don't play one emotion the entire scene through. For example, a line that seems angry might also have some humor or vulnerability beneath it. Complexity makes characters come alive. Surprise them. If your script hints that your character should cry, why not consider holding it in? If the line feels like it should be shouted, try whispering it. You see, unexpected choices, when rooted in truth, can make your audition unforgettable. I love auditions that have some level of spontaneity in them. Surprising yourself during an audition is a really cool feeling. So, of course, you can't plan spontaneity, but you can be comfortable enough with the material that you're saying to yourself, let's just see what happens. All right, here's a pro tip. This is important. Bold doesn't mean outrageous. You see, your choices should still be very grounded and should feel very authentic to the story. It's not arbitrary and it's not outrageous. Still, consider telling the truth. Next, here's another tip I think is really, really useful. This is a big deal when I'm teaching on-camera classes, is to personalize the material. You see, if the actor can find a way to connect the scene to their own life experience or emotions, it becomes a very truthful moment that's discovered. Simply ask yourself, when have I felt like this? Relating to the character's feelings makes your performance real and relatable. Bring your unique self to the role. Your uniqueness is what's going to bring you the role, the job, the callback. So that means your life experiences, your quirks, and your perspectives are what make your interpretation one of a kind. No one else is going to do what you do, as long as you tap in to that uniqueness. Moving on from there, avoid playing it safe or generic. I think you can lean into the specific details that make you special as an actor. Okay, pro tip. This is true. Casting directors aren't just hiring a character. They're hiring you. Show them who you are through your choices. All right, let's just take a moment and say, I just made you a lot of money right now for those of you that are listening. So congratulations. Consider leaving me a thumbs up, a like, or a share. I'm not even going to ask for 10%, I swear to you. All right, let's move on from there in terms of choices that you have available to you when you get a script to make your auditions wow. Play the relationship. Play the relationship the way your character interacts with others. It really does tell the audience, and it also tells casting directors, so much. Who are you talking to? Think about how your character feels about the other person in the scene. Are they trying to charm? Are they trying to intimidate, impress? Or are they trying to make some kind of a connection? Focus on the, quote, give and take, end quote. You see, acting, I promise you, is not just about delivering your lines in a literal way. It's about reacting and staying engaged, even when you're silent. Imagine the other person's responses. If you're working solo, doesn't give them much to work on. Here's another pro tip. Even if the scene feels like a monologue, it's always a conversation. Someone, real or imagined, is listening. We're going to move on with the next tip. Hang in there. Your auditions are going to wow right after this.
Are you wishing for acting success? Are you ready with audition techniques for theater, film, and television? Are you ready with proven methods for growing your talent? Are you ready to boost your business? It would help if you had a playbook to guide you. Now, there's Jeff's Jots, the actor's career playbook by Jeffrey Dreisbach. Jeff's Jots at Amazon.com, CastingActorsCast.com, available in paperback, hardcover, or ebook. Stop wishing and start doing with Jeff's Jots, the actor's career playbook.
Welcome back. We're going through all kinds of really cool tips and steps for you to feel comfortable when you get an audition script so that your auditions can wow. Right? I love that word, wow. So as we move on from there, be comfortable with adjustments. This happens all the time in the room. It also happens on Zoom auditioning. It doesn't happen on self-tape because you don't have anyone right there to kind of give you some feedback or make an adjustment. The casting director might ask you to change your performance during the audition. They might give you an adjustment. Here's a way to approach that. I think if you have an attitude of being flexible and open to direction, it is going to elevate our consideration for you to play the part. That was a really good tip right there. Don't over-rehearse. I've seen that happen a lot as well. I think that you should rehearse enough to know the material, but I don't want you to work on it so much that you're locked into one way of performing it. Now, that speaks to what we talked about earlier in terms of being spontaneous. So it's a fine line, I think, between feeling prepared and overworked. So be really careful. Again, it's about knowing all of the elements of the scene that will make it interesting without setting it in stone or freezing that performance. The best auditions I ever see are the ones in which the actor is not trying to recreate what they rehearsed. Show that you can take direction. If the casting person says, let's see it more playful, let's see it more serious, let's see it with a little more humor, all of those things are comments that the casting director or the producer, whoever is kind of running that show, they might want to see something different. So please don't panic. Just embrace the note and try something fresh. Feeling like this is a rehearsal, that you've already booked the job, is a great way to feel like you are in a collaborative environment rather than I have to win these casting people over. And the way you can help yourself do that is just try some of this at home. I think if you really try the scene in a lot of different ways during your rehearsal process, this is going to build confidence and it really helps you stay nimble. So here's a pro tip. I promise you, adjustments are often less about fixing something and much more about seeing how versatile you are as an actor. All right, let's move on from there. Use the space and your body. This is really valuable, I think. Don't be afraid to move and engage physically. That's not only for your live auditioning, which kind of makes sense, but even for self-tape. You must stay in the frame, however. But even if you're in a small frame on screen, you can find natural gestures. Let your body support the emotions and intentions of the character. I've seen this a lot in self-tape, where the actor is so worried about excessive movement that they stay frozen. And the uniqueness of your character is what we need to see, and that also implies that we see the character in a natural state. And you can do that by working with the environment. So you can decide, is my character sitting? Is it standing? Is it pacing? So use the imaginary space to ground yourself in the scene. Another kind of logistical thing that I think is forgotten, frankly. A lot of people, a lot of actors, very professional actors seem to forget this, but don't forget to stay connected to your breath. Breathing deeply not only calms your nerves, but it also helps you connect to the character's emotional state. Unless that emotional state is hyperventilating, it's really important to stay connected to your breath. Here's a pro tip. Movement should feel purposeful, not random or arbitrary. Ask yourself, now, why am I doing this? Do that with every choice. You see, the more specific your choice, the more interesting the audition. I also think that as we talk about movement, now it's time to talk about the opposite of that, and that is to embrace stillness when it counts. See, it doesn't mean that you have to do that all the way through. When it counts, when it's appropriate for the character, for example, sometimes the most dynamic choice is simply doing less. What happens then? It happens in life when those moments sit there. Let the moments land. Pauses can add weight to your lines and give the audience time to process what's happening. It's also great if there's another character in your scene for them to process what's happening. Another tip to do that is to use your eyes. A glance or a subtle expression can really speak volumes and draw the audience in. Whether it's on camera or whether it's in person, knowing what your emotional state is at any given moment just draws us more and more to you. But I also have to say this, it's important to avoid overacting. If you're doing something on self-tape or you're doing something on camera, trust that the camera or the audience will pick up on the subtlety. So when I talk about stillness, it doesn't mean being passive. The character should still have energy and intention, even in those quiet moments. All right, here's another tip for preparing your script to make your auditions wow. I think you need to prepare emotionally as well, but you also have to stay flexible. Connecting emotionally to the material is quite important, but you don't want to overthink it. Find the truth in the moment instead of trying to feel sad or feel angry. Simply focus on the circumstances and let the emotions emerge into that moment naturally. So if you practice emotional recall, if that helps you, it's a matter of simply thinking of a personal memory that mirrors the character's situation. But here's a cautionary tale. Don't get so caught up in the feeling that you lose sight of the scene's purpose. In past episodes, I've talked at length about P-I-R-R. Plot, what's the story? What's the writer's intention? Why did the writer write this scene? P-I-R, relationship. What's the relationship to the other character in your scene? And then finally, the last R, P-I-R-R, is reaction. Reacting to each of those moments, being in the moment. Stay in the moment. React to what's happening in the scene, not what you think the emotion should be. Keep it natural, keep it truthful. Here's my pro tip. Keep the emotional preparation light in the room. Showing you can control your emotions, I think, is just as important as accessing them. So be careful. It's not about the emotion, it's about the character in that circumstance, in that situation, in that place. All right, let's move on from there. Be fully present. This is something I see actors getting lost in all the time, where you see them acting. It becomes presentational. So you need to compensate for that energy by being simply really present, moment to moment work. This is your time to connect with material, and show your artistry. You can do that in a few ways. One, don't rush. Give yourself a moment to center before starting the scene. Number two, stay engaged. Even if you happen to stumble over a line, just keep going. It's been my experience that recovering gracefully shows professionalism and it shows composure. I also think you should enjoy the process. Please remember, auditioning is an opportunity to act. Even if you don't book the role, why don't you relish the chance to play? That's really helpful, I think. If you come into an audition like it's not an event, but it's an opportunity for you to have fun and to act, that's all it is, then you're in a much better emotional place. Here's a pro tip. Casting directors aren't just looking for perfection, right? They're looking for potential. If you're fully present, I promise you, you're going to stand out. Last tip I have for you is practice, practice, practice. Great auditions are the result of preparation, not luck. So, as I mentioned earlier, rehearse smartly. If you can focus on understanding the character and building strong choices rather than memorizing every word perfectly, that's really helpful. Get feedback. I think it's valuable if you practice with a coach or a friend, or do a self-tape setup to see how your performance reads to you. Stay consistent. Auditioning is a skill, and the more you do, the more confident and dynamic you will become. Good. That was helpful, I hope. I think it must be. At least I hope it is. Let me know by leaving me a thumbs up or a like, but I just want to give you a final thought before you depart today. I think auditioning and the audition approach is all about blending preparation with spontaneity. Dive into the script, making specific choices, and trust your own instincts. You see, I know that casting directors want to see your interpretation of the role. So be fearless, be present, and most importantly, have fun. You've got this. I'm Jeffrey Dreisbach. This is Casting Actors Cast.
It's been great having you in our talent pool today. Your support means the world to us, so please consider sharing, liking, and reviewing this episode wherever you jump in. I'm Megan Grace Martinez. Thanks.
From monologue